What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Forbidden Mountain. Tonight, we are live on a Saturday night, and I have lots of friends. Hello, Mr. Smurf, Mr. Christian.
That's me.
Old friends from an old channel, I should say, but this is a brand new one, and we're all here to hang out tonight. So, first and foremost, first time on the channel, in the community, everyone might know you by now, but in the YouTube life, Smurf, I'm going to pitch to you first. A little bit of background on yourself and Lorcana and things like that.
Yeah, so Lorcana was a game that I originally wasn't too excited for, if I'm being completely honest. And then hanging out in the Discord since the Transformers days, you guys started going towards it, and I think it was Christian was like, "Hey, we're getting the band back together. Join us." And so found some starter decks at the game store, picked them up, and the rest is history at this point. Like, it's probably my favorite card game I'm currently playing, maybe second favorite card game of all time that I've played so far, because
Wow, that's a hell of a comment right there.
well, obviously we're only in one set right now, but like we'll see how things go. But from a gameplay perspective, it's kind of at the point where the interaction is kind of hidden, which I like, because there's a lot of lines you can take that aren't apparent at first, and even like just reading cards, you're like, wait, you can do that.
Right.
It's just stuff that you're not realizing from what looks like a simple game at first. So as a brewer, that's something I really like. And also, it's the first game I've actually been able to like get my sister into playing too. So I have someone to play with outside of a card store. It's not just, oh, okay, I can only play it on these certain days. No, it's, hey, we got nothing to do. Let's jam some games. Things like that.
Fair. And both of you are from Minnesota, and you we're gonna be discussing your local scene in a little bit here. But Christian, right back to you there, sir. How did we come to Lorcana?
Well, let me tell you, I didn't hear about Lorcana until my brother Matthew sent me a post on Facebook, which is how this always starts with trading card games. Matthew sends me a link to some scuffed website about a new trading card game coming out. I'm like, do we have to get into this? And they're like, we have to get into this. I'm like, okay, we'll get into it. And I kind of forgot about it for about a year. Played some Digimon for a while. You know, did okay on that. Had some fun times. Had some really sad times in Digimon for a little while. And eventually, was it August? Yeah, like August started rolling up, and Matt's like, "Hey, Lorcana's coming." I'm like, "Oh my god, you're right. I have to get on this." And I knew you were making videos for a while, but I haven't been following too much because I wasn't like 100% sure, right? Because I didn't see much about the game yet. And then I started to see more videos about the game. I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. This is cool. Okay, got started. It's got the starter decks. Got some troves. Went to my brother's house, who had recently broken his leg. Still on the mend, or broke his foot, not his leg. I'm sorry. Broke his foot. So I've been wheeling and dealing for looking for cards for both me and Matthew right now. And then we played some games and we had a good time. And it's just been kind of uphill ever since. Been really enjoying the game. This is, similar to the Smurfs. This is the first game that my wife has like really taken an attachment to. Right? She's not like the biggest competitive like card player, but whenever she does anything, she's pretty competitive at it, or like she always wants to win. Right? So
Sure.
she's just like she's actually like drawn and taken to this game quite a bit. We both really love the Ravensburger Villainous games, and so there's like a familiarity with that, and so she's really drawn to that. A bunch of my D&D buddies recently started getting into the game, like literally like 2 minutes before this podcast started. I just had to kick my friends out the door because me, my friends, and my wife were playing a 4 round of Lorcana. And I was like, guys, I gotta get on there in like 2 minutes. Like, okay, sounds good. I'm gonna play 2 grab your swords and wipe your board. I'm like, guys, please end this quickly. But no, it's been a thrill. It's been very enjoyable. The kind of like what Smurf said, the lines in the game, easy to pick up, but there's a lot of mastering in this game. That rewards play and practice and analysis that I love in trading card games, and so I've really found a good home here. I think it's been very enjoyable.
I like it. I like to hear it. for anyone just entering the room, us three go pretty far back. The pandemic era of Discord for us. We spent a lot of days together, so it's a lot of fun to catch up with you guys and see, everyone. I don't know what that. Oh, there you go. There you go. Old
ATP
school.
bot.
My guy.
ATP 5 or 6?
It's
ATP 6. There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
I like it. Got the whole box there. Love it.
I love the whole box. It was awesome.
I
Yeah,
remember
the box things were cool.
I remember when he first gave me the idea for the box, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll design the box. You got it."
I just broke the box.
But yeah, so it's really cool to see you guys like really come back, get excited for Lorcana. Ironically, Christian, your brother, I remember he sent me a message on Facebook like weeks ago, and he goes, "I am so excited that you're covering this game. I'm so excited to get back into into trading card games, things like that." We had a real fun conversation. I did not know he had a broken foot. Poor Matthew.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, the dude's like, he's kind of like, he played a lot in the first week, but he hasn't been able to play much because dude's in a chair most of the time, right? So he hasn't been able to go with me to local events or run around yet. So we're hoping chapter 2, he's like ready to get back into it more,
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna start tonight the right way because it's been a little while since I've actually been able to do a podcast and stream, and I have a bunch of questions to answer. Ironically, some of the questions are for you guys, so we get to just live chat about this. It'll be great. So we're gonna go into the Discord, and we have questions. And Smurf, you're the first one on the list here. So with cards being hard to find right now, what cards and inks would you look to build around if you were looking to play local leagues and tournaments on a budget? Smurf, you've been doing this, so why don't you tell me what you've been playing, and we can kind of just go from there.
Okay, so I've kind of been playing a lot of Amethyst Steel, and the main reason I've been playing that is the first 2 starters I got were Sapphire, the Sapphire Steel, and I believe it's Amethyst Amber starters. And so I got those 2, and I kind of just went through them and was like, all right, so here's my initial card pool. What can I do with this? And I had the Maleficents, and you get the Friends on the other side, the Fire the Cannons, and it's just card draw and removal in those colors. So it's a lot of what I like doing in Magic, where I just play like an attrition game for the most part, and eventually I will run you out of resources and then turn the corner. And it feels like those colors have a lot of like skill expression in them because maybe you're not using the most powerful forms of removal in the game, but you are able to play the cards in such a way that you can know, okay, now I'm the aggressor, now I'm the control player, and it's just picking up on those cues for when you have how to play them. It helped that my first pack had a queen in it as well, so that was one of the rares that I needed for the deck. So yeah, I've been playing that, and I actually just picked up my third and fourth big Tinkerbells today, which is like the big buy-in for Steel. So once you get that, and then the Grab Your Swords, you basically have like the Steel core, so you can pretty much play anything in those colors. So yeah, I've been playing a lot of those colors, and since the deck is mostly able to be comprised of commons and uncommons, besides like your huge cards, your queens, your you don't play more than really one Ursula a lot of the times, like one Ursula and then the big Tinkerbells. The rest of the deck is really easy to get cards for.
So in your guys' area, what's it been like, trying to acquire sealed product, for example? Like, has it been like, did any of your card stores like do well? Any of the LGSs like, have product for sale, things like that? Or like, has it just been like jump around to the next best target?
Not at launch. Most of the pre-orders sold out immediately, like before, even months even in advance. I, on the day the game came out, on my lunch break, instead of eating, drove to the 2 targets by my work to try to hit them up. They had nothing. And then literally Monday this last week is the first time I've ever found sealed product in the wild, and that was at a Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, I got very fortunate at one target. I've looked at a lot of targets. I found one target and that had a good chunk of product. So I bought a good chunk of product there, right? But that's all I found. Thankfully, I'll say to kind of shout out, or at least the Minnesota community around where we're at. the people that have pulled a lot of product, at least, when they sell singles, they're pretty good about selling at like 80% TCG player market value, which is like, they certainly don't have to sell that low. They found all the products, so I'd rather, it's one of those things. I was telling my buddies this too that are kind of new to CCGs, like it's kind of a weird time because I'd say 99% of TCGs, like buying singles for the deck you want to build is going to be cheaper than cracking packs.
Yeah.
Even though now, right now, there's a lot of value in cracking packs because costs are so much higher, but things are dropping, right? So I'm always been a big proponent of buying singles. And if you have an area, and just again to show out the people in the area that are selling at like reasonable amounts, it's nice to see.
The other thing is, like, it seems like a lot of the stores have been buying a lot of collections too, like, right away. So, like, we've
Yeah,
gotten most of our stuff, like the bigger cards, either I've ordered it, from you and Scott, or the stuff that I haven't been able to find from you guys. I've gotten fortunate enough that the store I go to for competitive Pokemon on Mondays bought a big collection and had a bunch of stuff I was missing, or the store actually right next to that store bought a collection and I was able to get a bunch of stuff. So there's been a lot of collections sold and able to be purchased, like pieces of that I found at game stores just on a chance. So it seems like there's a lot of product, at least in the singles, going around, which is nice, like Christian was saying.
yeah, not a bunch of sealed. I mean, there is sealed, right? Because I see posts all the time of people finding product and it being gone within 30 minutes, right? But I mean, for the most part, people are always buying and selling singles. For the most part, it's not too hard for me to just like go on Facebook, like, hey, I'm looking for this 80% TCG marketplace, and in like an hour I'll get like a couple messages. So it's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, I've definitely have already found people like just, they got what they could get, and then they're like, I can't get any more, and the local scene's like not picking up, so I don't want to play already. And like it sucks because like it's so early on in the game, but if the local scene's not there, if you can't get cards, you're just like, well, I may as well cash in now because everything's pretty high. Like you can really, it's very easy for you to get like the return on, on your purchases. So
Yeah.
I get it. It just sucks because it would be obviously be better if like less people were already selling out, just because it's like I'm only selling out because I can't actually get any more in, and I think that's like, feels kind of bad.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because it feels like there was a lot of people hoping to just get that like pack cracking niche or
Yeah.
fix in with the game. And it's real fun to crack packs, don't get me wrong, but as someone who's been playing card games pretty much more than half my life at this point now, like you kind of have to know that when you got to stick it out and it'll come.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It always does. It always does. There's been like a big TCG boom, like in the past, like 3-4 years, and every new TCG that's come out, the first like 2 sets have been hard to find product for, but it always kind of stabilizes. There's my brother Matthew,
yep.
king of crack packing. This guy cannot. This guy, I don't know how he does it, but this man just pulls gold and everything. Like this man could find a Lorcana card wrapped in a piece of toilet paper found on the street, and it's going to be like an enchanted rare. Like he just finds it. I don't know how he does it.
Well,
That's my brother, by the way.
this
Shout out to
this
that guy.
initial wave of Lorcana reminds me very much, even like the initial wave of TFTCG. Like they got 3 boxes
little
at
bit.
tabletop when the game came out, and they didn't have enough boxes for all of us interested at that day. But
Yeah,
we stuck through it.
the price between Wave 1 when it dropped and Wave 3 when it dropped was a lot different at that point, right? Very
Mhm.
different. Same with Digimon, just to count more experiences on that. The first when I played Digimon when it first came out, the first set, it was exactly like this. But it was actually worse, I'd say, because and we'll probably get a little bit into this later. In Lorcana, there's definitely some very clear like winning decks, right, in the format, but there's still a decent variety of what you can actually bring to a tournament. In the set with the Digimon, there was not that variety, right? And so the best deck to build in Signals was like $1,000, like not even joking. It was like $1,000, and a quarter that was a playset of 4, playset of 1 card, right? And boxes were going for $350 on eBay. It was the exact same thing as this.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's not at all shocking to me. It's just more of a,
Wow.
man, I didn't think it was going to be this rough type scenario. But it just, as the weeks go by, I think for me, this was like the first week that it was hard to tell that like Target's even got anything this week or Walmart's even got anything this week, because it's like since there was the big Pokemon release, there was a large Pokemon, so like the Pokemon was gigantic this week. So I'm like, I don't even know if there was even Lorcana in this particular setting. I have no idea because there was just so much Pokemon. So it's really hard to tell, but it's been really interesting because the original question here was about budget decks, and I think that everyone is, I would say the average person is currently working on a budget deck anyway, just because of lack of resources. So for the most part, if you're just going to league nights and they're not like hyper competitive, it's probably okay. And I know, again, we're going to get into where yours might be, and it might be a lot different from others, because I've heard all different sorts of interesting stories about league plays recently. But yeah, I think it's tough. I think there's definitely been some clear decks out there that are just budget decks, and people have already been successful with them in 1Ks and things like that. The number one comes to mind is the Amethyst Emerald deck is pretty cheap.
Yeah.
I also believe the Sapphire Emerald deck is actually pretty cheap that came out this week. That's another one that was
very cheap.
I think it's pretty under like the average cost of a deck. So there's definitely a couple, like Emerald just seems to be generic. Like, even though there's a lot of like good uncommons for it, like it's a lot easier to buy $3 and $4 uncommons than it is to buy $15 and $20 secret rares, So like, I think that's why it ends up being pretty cheap overall. But I think it's one of those where if I were going to a league every week, I would probably be purposely bringing multiple decks for the level of competition that like would show up that night. Because like obviously I have a play set of everything. I can build whatever the hell I want. But I know not everyone can do that. So since not everyone can do that, I wouldn't mind just like having a fun deck together and be like, oh, this is just not high level power level. It's just here, like just to do whatever random crap I want to do that night and things like that. So I think it just depends on your league. It depends on like, how competitive it is, how serious it is, how much product was really given out. If everyone's playing, starter deck pluses, it's probably not very fun anyway. So hopefully it's not that bad at leagues, because I imagine people would get pretty bored pretty quickly if like they're just not a way to get better than that. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see.
I've noticed it moving away from, at least at the store Christian and I play at during the week, moving away from a lot more of the starter deck plus, and as people are getting more and more cards, I've noticed that there's been less starter deck plus that I've run into.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna get into the second question. Bring it back up here. So our second question is, do you think each ink will keep its strengths as more chapters come out? As in, Sapphire will get more ramp cards, will Amethyst get more drawing power, or do you think each ink will get some type of each card? So, I mean, the interesting about it is that we've already kind of seen a change, right? I mean, if we just look at resist as a keyword, before Sapphire or Steel was all about doing damage. Now all of a sudden it's about resisting damage. So literally
beating itself.
Basically, but like in one chapter, you're already seeing like almost a coin flip to another side. So I'm actually very interested to see, what really develops with those things. Like, I don't really think Amethyst needs more draw. So like, I think that it would become almost too much in a way. Like maybe like one more card that does it, but they definitely don't need 2 or 3 more cards to do it, right? Like, I don't know. And the same thing with Sapphire. I don't really think Sapphire needs more ramp cards. Like, they have enough ramp. They just need better stuff to ramp into. So I don't even think I'd be really excited about that either. And then I don't know. I think it'll be interesting. Like, I think of it more like the keywords, in all honesty. Like, if you really look at set 1, I think there's less than 4 cards that have Singer. So like a card like Singer is a keyword. It would be something I look for. Even bodyguards, like even though there's like 5 or 6 bodyguards, maybe a little bit more than that, I would still be interested in seeing what more bodyguards and like what inks get bodyguards and things like that. So that's what I would be. Even Challenger, right? Like Challenger's another one. Like, it's not that high of cards. I think like every keyword in the game is like less than 10 cards for sure. So I'm really curious to see where they develop more of the keywords, and then we already know that we're getting a new one, so we might even be getting more new ones. So that's what I'm really interested in. I'm really interested in seeing how the keywords in the game develop further. Anything else you guys are a little curious to see or think it'll develop in Chapter 2?
I mean, I'm already seeing, like, just looking at some of the spoilers we've gotten so far, like Sapphire's getting more aggressive tools, which is something you're not locked into the ramp game plan,
Mhm.
and it makes like the Eye of the Fates decks look better. And I mean, I would say my favorite card spoiled so far, not even because I don't even play the colors, is the elegancy of as having done card design now, the just elegant stuff on the Cogsworth. I think it's a 2-drop. Your reckless characters gain exert add a lore. Like that wording is just so like it's just very clean wording because they can't quest, but they can pseudo quest.
Yeah, it was a very interesting workaround for sure, and we're going to talk about that later. So let's not spend too much time. Christian, how about you? Anything you're interested in seeing in Chapter 2 early?
Man, there's a lot of, I've played a lot of trading card games at this point, and they all have, when you kind of look at like all of them from across like a spectrum, they all kind of have similar things that get added over the course of the game, right? Like we've seen like resist in other card games, even in the ATP Transformers TCG had something exactly like this, right? But almost do actually a lower power level because you couldn't stack that, right? This one you can stack. I think it's interesting. What I've done, or what I've seen them do, at least in Chapter 1, I'm guessing they'll probably follow suit over the course of the next games, next chapters, is that, like you said, not most of the keywords don't have a ton of cards. Dedicated them into the pool. They usually reserve certain keywords to like only 2, maybe 3 inks, right? Like bodyguard stuff is only in amber and steel, right? Singer stuff, I think it's only in amber. Rush stuff is mainly in ruby and amethyst, except for like some of the off stuff, like the one beast in emerald. I think by kind of keeping them to certain keywords and certain colors, right? Like keeping like resist to sapphire and steel and maybe like 1 or 2 cards in like a different color. It helps kind of cultivate this level of archetype building, right? So like when you're building like a sapphire steel deck, right? Like, am I building between like chapters 1 through 3? I'm not just building like sapphire steel resist. Once that's out, I could still be playing like a sapphire steel ramp style deck, right? That maybe splashes the resist cards, but maybe another one really focuses on that, right? I think that's what's really important that they're doing, is that they're building onto these archetypes within the inks, so that like playing Ruby Amethyst from in Chapter 1, in Chapter 2, and Chapter 3 don't all look the same, right? I think that's what I'm hoping to see, right?
So my only
Is to kind of
counterpoint, is one I don't even really want to make right now, but what I think is interesting about it is that if they do branch out further, it does make limited play better. Because right now the decisions in like draft and sealed are just like play the best card. If there were actual archetypes outside of just 2 colors or 3 colors, since you can utilize all 6 in limited formats, at least it actually makes some decision points in the format rather than just play the best thing. So that's the only, like, my only side argument is I really need that format to be more strategic. Right now, it's just not. It's just play the best card and move on with life. So I'm hoping that that's where they utilize it, is that in limited, this is how we actually create some strategies in limited. But I digress.
That'd be cool. Oh, and more synergy stuff with traits. I want more trait support stuff. I like that. I want more brooms. Give me more brooms. I'll take a mop.
Oh yeah, traits, 100%. Princesses. I want something to do with princess. All of it.
Yeah.
All right. So this is way too long to go too far into, so we're not going to do everything, but we'll each do one. What do you think the most overvalued or undervalued card is currently? Now I know you guys don't follow the market as much as I do, but
I look every day though. Still.
All right. Good. You definitely don't follow it as much as I do, but
no, definitely
not. What do you think is the most overvalued card right now, Smurf?
Most overvalued card.
Christian, do you have an answer? We'll let Smurf think.
I think I have an answer.
Okay.
It's gonna be super controversial.
Oh, I like it.
I think I have an answer.
Okay.
And that is, I think Whole New World is by far the most overvalued card right now.
Interesting. Okay.
I think too many people are playing it in decks they shouldn't be playing it because they just see ooh new hand, and that's driving the
Yeah.
price up. But I think as more people play that card and realize it doesn't go into everything, and you're gonna lose more games playing it in the wrong decks than you are winning it just by playing with power level, people realize that it's not a go in everything, and the price will go down to what it should be, in my opinion. But every time I've played that card, I've literally, if it's not exactly perfect, I just lose on the back of it, and it's one of those cards that can happen. It's a draw 7 for both players.
Fair.
Yeah.
Christian?
I like that answer a lot. My answer for most overvalued cards, so I'm looking at TCG Player right now, and one really sticks out to me currently. It's my boy John Silver at $16.
Hold,
I
please.
don't know.
I gotta interrupt. I sold
Okay,
it at
please.
$19.99 today.
Why?
And
Like
I can't even believe that I sold them at $20. I literally can't believe it. So continue.
Okay. We can argue about the effectiveness of John Silver quite a bit, right? I have a buddy of mine who's just building Emerald. He likes the John Silver, which is great. I think the card is fine. I don't think it's like the auto include in every Emerald deck. He is not worth $16. I don't know. I can't fathom that. Like he's only a couple dollars less than Cusco, or a couple dollars more than Cusco. It doesn't make any sense to me. I think he is absolutely overvalued currently.
I think that's a
No,
great answer.
I can't. Yeah,
I think
I
it's a
can't picture
great
that
answer.
one. Yeah,
I'm gonna go with
it sticks out.
I'm gonna go with undervalued. I'm gonna actually say that Ariel Spectacular Singer is undervalued. This is
Man,
a
you stole
card.
my answer, bro.
I'm sorry. This is a card that is one of the best cards in the game, and it's underplayed and undervalued, in my humble opinion. So, just that's where I'm at. But we'll move on. I didn't want to spend too much time on that. I can make an entire video on that particular piece of question. So, let's go back over here. And this is a slam dunk question, and we're going to answer in 3 seconds because Cable already did for it. It's discussion on the possibility of a second edition stamp. All right, listen, I don't need to finish it. There is no second edition stamp. There is no first edition stamp. It's never going to happen. Stop worrying about it. It's never going to happen. Thank you, Cable, for immediately answering, because Cable knows what he's talking about.
Is there like a modern TCG that does the first edition stuff
Flesh and
anymore?
Blood. Flesh and
I
Blood
guess
did.
Flesh and Blood did it. Does
Oh.
Pokemon still do it? Does
don't
Pokemon
know
still
if
have
they
first
do.
editions?
Actually, Flesh and Blood recently sunset first edition a couple sets ago.
The first edition one.
I literally don't know.
I think they still do. I think they
I have
still
no
do.
idea.
Yeah, they still do. Pretty sure.
Why is He's Got a Sword Dan's favorite card? It's not. That's fake news.
It's fake news. I don't know about that. We could report that all night.
Absolute fake news. I know you said George's interview is about Miami. Is there any details about GalaxyCon? We currently still don't have any update on GalaxyCon, but George does expect to have, at the very least, an announcement at Miami. If there's something before that, I promise you will hear it from us first. Promise you. We're talking about 8 faces now. We're just going to avoid all of these things here. You guys are breaking the whole questions for the podcast rule.
Listen, those were weeks ago. You can't blame us.
I know. All right. So this is a topic that, as a team, we've had a lot of discussions about this week. So I thought this was a phenomenal question. Can you explain the pros and cons of the Mickey Broom package in Ami Ruby? So, Christian, we're going to talk about the local later on, but you were playing a deck this week, and you're playing Ruby Ami, and if I remember correctly, you were not playing Mickey Broom combo, correct?
I was not on the Broom combo, correct.
Okay. So, and you did play it the week before, right?
Correct. Also
All right,
not on the Broom combo.
You have 2 weeks of local experience playing this, nothing like at a 1K experience. However, first, you hear it here first, you guys are playing in 30+ player league nights, so it's not like it's not nothing. At 30+ players is a that's a lot of players. So talk to me.
It is.
Talk to me about your experience with the deck and the two, the difference of why you think one is better than the other. Not even better than the other, but what each. Let's just say what each has to offer. So what does Mickey Broom have to offer?
So Mickey Broom, I think, has to offer in I think a couple different avenues. I think the easiest one to point out is it's good for budget players,
Mhm.
right? Like it's weird to think of Ruby Amethyst as a budget deck, but there's the concept of like building out the deck that you want to play and putting in the Mickeys and the Brooms does offer space that does, people often play with it even at the most expensive list still. And so I think it's a good way for budget players to use it. Um, and it offers a different way of like dealing with the mirror, right? Typically you'll see a lot of stuff people talk about the Ruby Amethyst mirror going to time all the time or taking forever, and and a
I
lot
mean,
of that mirror match has.
I've
Mhm.
now seen games where people are getting to like legitimately 30 ink.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen
Yeah.
it, right? And the brooms, the brooms alone allow you to recycle your big bombs, right? Like a lot of that mirror match is like who has the last big dudes left? Because a lot of your big dudes get rid of other dudes, right? And so when you have the brooms to like recycle like your Aladdins, your Elsas, your Ursula, or the Maleficent dragons, right? You start to like get those like tempo plays back into your deck. And the Mickeys allow you to get those a little cheaper, right? You run Pocket Watch, so you can rush the rooms if you want to. I think that personally, I think the biggest like benefit of adding Mickeys to the brooms isn't actually so much the cost reduction; it's the fact that Ruby Amethyst doesn't really have a lot of decent 4 cost characters to play,
Mhm.
and playing Mickey out, he's still like 2 lore, right? So
Mhm.
like he still offers a way for you to win, like get closer to the end of
To
the game, which
pressure.
is what everyone should be doing
And
anyway, right? So
his,
you know,
his strength and willpower aren't bad either. They're
well,
fine.
yeah, yeah, he's got okay stats, and like if you have 3 brooms in hand, you got a Mickey, it feels really good,
Mhm.
right?
Oh,
So that's where I see a lot of like the benefit of playing the Mickey broom package combo.
I think an
Um,
unspoken benefit too is the game doesn't have a lot of shuffle effects. And I
yeah,
recently, in the current build of Amethyst Steel, I've been playing put the broom package in there as a shuffle effect because Ursula's Cauldron is a ridiculous card, and
Mhm.
I've been sold on that card now. And having that shuffle effect when you put your bombs to the bottom early lets you get them back in the rotation, so they're not just out of the game. So like that's kind
yeah,
of the hidden power of it.
yeah,
Yeah, after like really going through the deck this week, I totally understand the people, like the mindset of this whole setup that you can go through to win these gigantic games that go somehow, like I said, to like literal 5 cards left in deck and 30 ink in play. I mean, these game states are unbelievable to even consider and see, but they're happening. They're definitely happening on Pixelborn. There's like stories of
yeah.
like hour and 20-minute games and things like that, which I mean, shout out to Pixelborn lasting that long in a single game, because for me, it always messes up somewhere. So like
Just like
uh
struggles, you know.
it's just one of those where it's like, man, I get it. I understand all the reasons why people are really going into it. I just wonder, you know, if it is the actual best option, if it's the only option. And I'm just not sold that it is the only option, but I understand why people feel like they are so committed to it. But I think time will tell. I think we might see that deck continue to evolve, and I think we might see, other versions trying to do different things that maybe you don't need that combo, or you definitely don't need 3 or 4 of each of those cards type scenario. Like I said, at the end of the day, Amethyst offers you a lot of draw power. So like having or feeling forced to play X amount of those cards might just not be true, but we'll see. We'll see in given time. All
I
right.
think
So our
there's an
last,
argument too, real quick, just add one little thing there. I think there's also an argument too to adding brooms but no Mickey. Like I think the idea of like turning an inkable 2 cost character into the potential to draw like another Elsa, Mickey BLT, Aladdin is pretty strong, but I don't think you need the extra Mickey to like reinforce that, right? I think there's an argument to also just having those as well, right?
it,
Another argument to throw out there.
it's
Just
just
something to throw out, right?
it's just all
It's
part of the combo. It really is. Like
all part of the combo. Yeah.
this once you get up to like 23 ink, 27 ink, you can do like really, really dumb things in the mirror in particular. Basically, like
Yeah.
anything that's not playing steel. If you're going to the end game and you're not playing in steel, and like they just don't have an answer for your pocket watches, they don't have an answer for your mirrors, and you just like play this ridiculously long, drawn out game, like all of a sudden you just can have turns where you're like, I can play Broom, I can get it back in Aladdin, I can draw my Aladdin with mirror, I can then play my Aladdin and give him rush, and then I can play Elsa. Like you just have like literal a million ink that do. I hate you so much. Like that does like all this ridiculous stuff, and I get it. I just don't. I'm not convinced that that's the only way to win the mirror match yet, and that's where
I
I'm
agree.
at.
I agree. I'm with you on that one.
So for our last question here, it's from you, Christian, and yeah. So we're gonna go back. And we have, how can I approach my local game stores in the area and try and host 1K events? What kind of relationship needs to be built before that? Is it worth showing the data from other 1K events and happening in the nation? Well, here's what I can tell you from my experience, because I am frustrated. It's not even a word, in all honesty. Like, I am really upset with the way that our local stores have been acting lately. We had a conversation about it the other day in our team chat and Discord, but we have 3 or 4 different stores like within a half hour of me that all had very successful releases. They all had product they sold. They all had starter deck events with 30, 40, 50 plus people. They're running league nights that were having, 15, 20, 30 people, and it was all these good things, but they have done nothing. Like, and over the course of the weeks, we have seen league numbers drop and drop and drop because people have been asking, like, hey, when are we gonna play for something? Like, and I'm not saying this is every community, but I can tell you that the Philadelphia community is a competitive one. Like, we like to play for something. People aren't always just gonna show up to play a pack per win or to say I'm gonna pay $10 and get my 2 packs. Like, we want to play for something. And if you have a community that's telling you, I want to play for something, you should listen. And like, where I'm at, I don't need to necessarily play for product either. Like, store credit is nice because it means that there's a concept that I can use the store credit later to buy the next set or to buy cards when they come in. But the other thing that stores can be doing is, we just saw it in Tampa Bay. They bought a Nintendo Switch and they said, hey, we're going to play for Nintendo Switch. Christian made a joke about a $100 gift card to Buffalo Wild Wings. Like,
Dude,
I'm not saying that
I'd be practicing for that event, my guy. Let me tell you. You
Talk
would
to
not
talk
see
to
me
Fry
below
because
the
it's right
top
next
4.
door.
I'm not
I know
saying,
it is. It's tempting.
I'm not saying you need to do those things, but as a store, you can go on, you can buy singles and just promote your event for singles. You can buy the cheapest enchanted that you can find and say, hey, this is what we're playing for today. So it's not even that you, quote, need sealed product to host events. You just need some type of greater incentive. And none of the stores in Philadelphia have at all tried to attempt that yet. And it's been so frustrating for me as a player because I want to play the game. And the first opportunity I've had to play the game since starter deck weekend would have been tomorrow, but I would have literally had to drive 90 minutes away to play an event that actually sold out at 60 players, and I missed I forgot to pre-register, so I can't play now. So that's a big old bummer on my end, but it's one of those where it's like, I can't believe that I have 4 or 5 stores in a 30-minute range of me, and none of them have done anything whatsoever other than host some casual league nights with all their player base saying we want more, and no one's done anything. So I think it's really tough. I think it's one of those where I don't even know the relationships matter. I just think they need to be willing to do it. And from my point of view, anyone that's running a game store that can't see what Lorcana is already doing is astonishing. Because they're just missing out on the opportunity to grow the community. In all honesty, like, there's been articles about this. There's been other YouTube content creators that talking about these things, but like all those stores that like sold their boxes at like ridiculous prices and then didn't build any community, like, or anything like that, like, they're missing out on the overall the long game of this is not 6 months. It was never going to be that. So everyone playing it the way they did just made it worse for themselves overall, which really sucks because, again, now you have all these stores with no product. They're going to league. You guys are already doing. You're going to league night with IOUs and things like that. And now we're just sitting here going, well, I like how many times do I really want to play for 0 packs? And it's just frustrating
Yeah.
for me.
It's a reasonable thing to be frustrated about, right? Because that's a cultivated thing in the TCG community is that, it's fun to play League and, the casual weekday events, but having these bigger tournaments to strive to is kind of part of the experience, right? It's
Right.
just something, right? Whether it is like a Switch or a B-Dubs gift card, or even any like or an Enchanted. Like there's a 1K in Wisconsin, so it's pretty far from us. But they were, the whole tournament is it's the first place prize is an Enchanted Wayward Sorcerer Mickey, and then second place is like $180, right? So like the payout is like there, and especially like I guess for me, I'm more shocked that game stores, like you said, don't want to like lead into that. Like it like what's like the common 1K price point of entry, like 20-30 bucks to like
20, 30
enter.
bucks, yeah.
20-30 bucks, right? So like if you get, if you have 30, if you spend if it's $30 entry for $1,000 worth of prizes between, top eight, you get 30 players, that's what, $900 or so. So you
Yeah.
need to get a little bit more than that. But like if your league nights are like 30 players, I mean,
Right.
imagine how many people you're gonna get for,
Well, not even that.
those
And
bigger events, right?
I think this is what stores are missing out on. So you have 38 players that go to your league night. Let's just
Yeah.
say, I don't know, let's say 20% of those players don't want to play competitively. Right?
Mhm.
Let's just assume that. So we just cut out 20%. But what about the other players at other stores around the area that don't want to drive to your league night? But they'll
Yeah.
drive to play in a 1K. Like I'll drive an hour to play in a 1K. I'll drive 2 hours to play in a 1K. Like, yeah, like I'm willing to
Yeah.
do those things. So how many of those players do you get to come to your store? Because I mean, I can tell you that the store tomorrow, the Bearded Dragon that has a 1K, they don't have 60-person league nights, but they just sold 60 seats to play in a 1K tomorrow. So if you're
There we go.
looking for it, it's like it's there. Like there's all these proof of concepts all over the nation already. So the information is there, and I do think it is one of those that if you're trying to build a relationship, you're just trying to show them information. Like, hey, listen, like here's this thing in Miami, they had 45 players. Here's this thing in Atlanta, they had 53 players. Here's this other thing, they had 34 players. Like all these successful stories already, and that's within the first 3 weeks of the game. Like, it's only going to get bigger. So I don't know.
It-
Hard to say.
There's also a notoriety, right? Like if you're like one of the first, we kind of talked about earlier about like it doesn't matter being the first at something, but if you're one of the first 10 stores that are hosting 1K events, that means something, right?
Yeah.
For the future of the game, right?
Right.
And your placement of it, right? Like that means something.
Right. Okay. So that was our questions, which lasted way longer than I thought. So let's get into the main port here. And today we're going to be discussing local gameplay, obviously. And I did this all wrong, so hold please. Let's skip back and we'll just okay, cool. And then we'll go back to this, right? And we'll look at this. And there's been local stores all throughout the nation that I think have been doing some incredible things. The first one I had seen this week on Facebook was Omega Gaming in Houston, Texas, and they had they're having 26 person locals. They're playing 5 rounds at their league nights, which is pretty crazy because you already have like these decks that they're showcasing now, and I know there's always this discussion around how much information is worth really discussing, but if you're playing in a 5-round tournament with 26 players, like 4-1 and 5-0 is successful enough to at least discuss the decks and things like that. So this is another great piece of information for people to be looking at because it's like, oh, well, like 26 players, like it's not 5, it's not 10, it's 26 players in games. I guess here's a good question, right? So the last game that you guys played, right? Christian, for you, it's Digimon. So how many players were coming to like your Digimon locals, or did you even have Digimon locals?
Oh yeah, there was Digimon locals. Digimon was actually, I think Minnesota was probably one of the more popular states in the nation for Digimon. We had quite a few players that were like regional and national topping players, like
Okay.
top 8, top 4 players. So it's had a pretty big scene, very competitive. I'd say locals were at least like 20 to 35 players.
Right,
Some areas.
but like that's what you're just saying, right? 20 to 35 players.
Yeah,
And you're saying
exactly.
that's a good number, right?
That's a great number.
Yeah.
It's a
Right.
great number.
So
Yeah,
when did you get into Digimon? Was it like 20 to 35 players very early on, or did it grow into that?
it grew into that. It
Right. So
definitely
we're
grew into
talking
that.
now, we're already at that in Lorcana.
Yeah,
Weeks into the game, and we're already at that level. So people are like, they're really disregarding this information, but it's information is information, period, no matter which way you look at it. B, you have to understand that this isn't Magic the Gathering yet. You're not going to have, I mean, we're already getting 60 person 1Ks. So like that's already comparable to like SCG events like in stores that they play and like their regionals and things like that. Like 60 to
yeah,
80 to 90 is like a pretty normal number. So if you're already hitting that number locally, but in your FNMs, like what are your FNMs numbers? Like Smurf would have an idea. What is your local FNM looking like?
At this point, we're talking like a quarter of your Lorcana numbers at this point.
That's
Like
bad.
we're getting like 8 to 10 people on a good day.
Right. So 8 to 10 people in a 25, well, 30 or whatever old the game is now. I've lost track at this point. But the point is that Lorcana is hype and
Yeah.
26 person locals on like a Wednesday night or whatever it is, like 26 people on a random weeknight. That's impressive. And I think it needs to be touted about.
Yeah.
it does. Absolutely.
So yeah, these were some of the decks that were showcased in that. Ironically, we did have, I talked about the Ruby Emerald deck here in the last video. This is, is this something similar to what you're building towards, Smurf, in this Amethyst Steel list you were talking about earlier?
Kind of. Like I actually think I have everything where I could build that specific build, other than the big Elsas.
Mm-hmm.
But the big Elsa, at least for me, doesn't necessarily fit how I like playing the game. So I've tried to go more away from that and focus more on just the attrition plan.
Mm-hmm. Fair. But
But
still, I
yeah,
digress, right?
that would be like if you're looking to build the meta
Right.
Amethyst Steel list, that's what I would build towards.
Sure. But yeah, and then we can still see like a development here. Like now a couple of these decks, like really realistically 3 of these decks, like all 3 of these first 3 decks are decks that like haven't had mainstream success in 1Ks and above and things like that. And these, they've had like 1 of deck or 2 of deck, like something like that, like a low number of representation. But you can see at a league night with 26 players, well, we went 4-1, 4-1, and 4-1. We'd be in top 8 of whatever that tournament was, Yep. And then of course we see pretty much the almost card for card with the new cat with Captain Hook, Happy Thoughts instead of whatever inserted into the songs deck. But nonetheless, like these are really cool to see. It's really exciting to see these type of numbers again a month into the game at local nights that you're going to. Like I would kill to go to a local night and play a 5-round event on a weeknight if I had the time to do it. It'd be great to do it. I would love to do that on like a Saturday morning though. Like I'm all about those concepts. But it's really interesting to see that it's already going that far, and this is just like literally one moment of this, right? Because we're going to talk about you guys now. And I'm going to give you guys, the opportunity to really just give credit to your store and things like that. But you guys are from Tabletop Tournaments in Crystal, Minnesota. I hope I got all that right. I asked Smurf, he told me yes. You guys, look, your store made a graphic for it. Like you're committed. But talk to me about the last couple weeks for your league play. Smurf, you were the first one to report it, so we're going to put Christian aside and let you discuss it first.
As it should be.
Yeah, so Tabletop's like been my home store, I would call it, for like probably close to since they opened. We just had the 10-year anniversary party, I think, last month, which was a good time. But yeah, so I know the managers, I know the owner, a lot of good guys. I've been helping them out with stuff, getting stuff going, and I've been really appreciative with the Lorcana stuff, that they've been willing to help me acquire the metagame data. They send me the picture. They always do a thing where they take a picture before the tournaments we got this many players for the event, everyone have fun. And it's always just a good, seeing that place as a full house again is something that I haven't seen for a while since the Magic popularity has kind of died down, and I don't go to the Yu-Gi-Oh nights, but I know they're one of the biggest Yu-Gi-Oh stores in the state as well.
Yeah.
But personally, not seeing that store as a full house until Lorcana again, it's been really refreshing and a good sign to see. Because I mean, we all played card games through the pandemic over webcam, but that time for game stores was not a very easy time.
A
And
lot of crashing and burns for sure.
and seeing the store that made it through it and is still going strong and is willing to help its player base. And I mean, one of the managers, his reaction when he found out that we were having big enough tournaments to have relevant data was overjoyed. I left the store that night and they were making a phone call to the owner like, "Oh my gosh, we're getting so many people," like just couldn't contain the excitement and all this stuff. And it's just we get new players, we get competitive players, we get the old players I haven't seen play a tournament after they left Magic and stuff coming back for this game, and it's just like catching up with old friends.
Nice. So talk to me about the events, Christian. You've been doing fairly well if I've recalled the information correctly.
Yeah, I have done fairly well, thankfully. It's been interesting. It's kind of like what you talked about, what we talked about before, like what type of like mix of like player base are we getting, right? When you get the, like what was it, 2 weeks ago we had 40 players at the at the
Yes.
league. That's a lot of different players there. We had a lot of I brought two brand new people to the game there myself that night. There's a lot of new players, but there's a lot of people that have been playing on Pixelborn and had the collections and was in selling like structure decks that like they had, and like they were like selling discounted structure decks and singles, and having that kind of mix of play experience was nice to see, right? Like I play pretty competitively. I want to, I try to do the best I can at every event I go to. um and I think what's nice about these league events too being so big is there's a lot of room for you as a player to go with certain goals in mind, right? Like if you're a new player, your goal shouldn't be to go undefeated, for the whole game if you don't even have the full collection, right? But going there with the notion of like, okay, I'm coming with an updated starter deck. I want to try to at least go to a game three, right? Or win a game, right? Win a match, right? And if you get there, that's a huge goal, right? It for that player. Um, and you kind of see that, like, in the first round, right? There's a lot of those, newer people, but as you get more and more, then you really get to, like, the people that have been playing for, 100 games on Pixelborn and, all that stuff. And it's a nice breath of competition and just kind of people to enjoy the game with, right? Outside of just the competitive experience, right? And all the very competitive people, because you've kind of experienced that. Sometimes competitive trading card game players can sometimes get a kind of weird or bad rep
Yeah.
personality
Yeah.
wise, right? And, and I've never experienced that yet in this game. Every, every like undefeated player that I've played against in this game, or top table player, has been very kind,
Yep.
courteous, laughing, fun. It's been kind of a breath of fresh air, honestly.
That Disney
Like I
magic.
can it's that Disney magic, man. Like, there I don't think I would ever bring my wife to a Digimon or a Yu-Gi-Oh, or my kids to like, these weeknight game like tournaments for those games. But, I've seen people bring like their 8, 9, 10-year-olds to league play and like, getting excited, and it's a lot of fun. One of the funnest things that TTT does that is my frame that doesn't really pertain to competitions at all is how they do the promos. They give out 8 promos every night, or yeah, every
Yeah.
weeknight. And my favorite way they do it is, instead of whoever gets at the top table and league points do it, they have every player that's there tonight. They got a big old wheel that they spin, and any person can get a chance at getting the pin or the card, and it gets excitement because everyone stops playing on the final round and has to watch the TV, and
Right,
everyone
right,
gets real excited. It's a good time,
It
but like,
is.
and yeah, but in terms of competition, you see also a lot of people that are there to do as well as they can, and the competition, when you want to find it, can get pretty intense, which is nice as well. It's good
Uh,
practice, for
the
lack of a
other
word.
the other thing is like what you were saying. Like there's the good players, like the well experienced players aren't like they don't have the traditional stigma you would think of. In fact, a lot
Yeah.
of them are like a good wealth of knowledge, and a lot of people are willing to give that knowledge. Like if you're just building
Yeah.
a deck and you want feedback, hey, I'm missing this cards. What do you think I should acquire for this deck? Or how do you think I can update it? Christian was doing that with players literally on Wednesday, like was giving feedback and saying, hey, let me see your collection. Okay, well, here's some changes you can make with what you have. It's not you don't have to necessarily buy cards, but it's like here's what you have. Here's how we can already make improvements. Or if you are grabbing stuff, hey, maybe Robin Hood's good in your Sapphire deck, and you're not playing those. Maybe your deck doesn't need one jump ahead, and you should be playing Phil in that slot instead because you're already playing Gramatalas and Mickeys, stuff like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
If you're hanging out in chat and you want to shout out your local store and give me the numbers, we'll definitely talk about it. We'll add it to the chat. Again, Maddie's hanging out with us, talking about his kids playing the game. I gotta reciprocate. I don't have that. My kids, they don't seem very interested in it, but it has been really, really nice to have my wife quite interested into it. Kylie has had a lot of fun with the cards. Obviously huge, Disney adults, which is funny because we've talked about the Disney adults on the channel before in other medias, and I'm definitely a Disney adult, but Christian, you're still a Disney kid, so like
in some circles I am. Yes, it's true. Every
to
week, it's like every other day I'll say something and I make the whole I turn wrinkles in the Discord. Like, what do you mean you're that young? What do you mean you've never? What do you mean you were born 5 years after the Great Mouse Detective was made? Christian?
exactly. You're like,
Christian,
what is this movie?
I didn't tell you this. Literally, to quote my sister on our way home Wednesday, she's like, "Yeah, he made me feel old. He's like 2 or 3 years older than me, and he's got kids and a wife and a house."
Yeah.
I don't have a house. I don't have a house. And so there's
Okay.
that.
So
Shout out to my boy Devin real quick in the YouTube chats. He was one of the players that is new to the game that's been real excited to play. Went with to TTT and was just at my house 2 minutes ago. So my
there
boy
you
Devin, I
go.
love that guy.
There you go. Shout out to Jeff here. Geeks and Games in Oregon City, Oregon. Usually has around 20 to show up for open play. That's awesome. Love to hear it. Love to see it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
that's awesome.
We have a couple, particularly, we have 2 deck lists here to look at from, I think this was your first week of locals that you sent me.
This
it
is
might be
last
one
week.
okay, it might be last. So shout out to the sweet Alpha Trion playmat here. I don't know who designed that. That guy is awesome, though, clearly.
Yeah, I was thinking about throwing it away, actually. It's just really cool.
The dice are pretty good, too.
It's toxic. If you need dice, I got you, bro. I promise.
My boy
Still have them. Yeah,
in case you're wondering whose playmat that is.
Hold, please.
That's me.
We're gonna hold on. Bring it back. Bring it back.
You're right. Here, let me get back a little bit more. There it is.
We gotta make you solo. Here we go. There you go.
There she is. This is
Love
one
it.
of my favorite playmats I got from APP. I bust this out all the time. I love this one. This one's the best looking one, I think.
That's a good one. I don't know. I was pretty proud of quite a few of them, if I'm being honest.
You should have been. They were fire.
Yeah, they were.
But so yeah. So Christian, this was the deck that you played this week. As we discussed a little bit, you didn't have the Mickey Broom combo. You're playing a little more into the evasive strategy and things like that. It seems. Aside from that, looks like a pretty run of the mill. It's like nothing too crazy. Just trying out some evasive stuff, which I like. Talk to me. Did you happen to play this opponent on the side, or did either one of you play the opponent here to the right?
No, I did not play Vince.
I did not. I played against one of the other undefeated Ruby Amethyst, and we went to 3 games with Steel Amethyst versus Ruby Amethyst. So
okay.
Yeah, I was watching his games. I believe he played 2 Amber Steel songs list.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean his he's got the 4 Hades. To me it's pretty standard. He's got everything that I would probably have as well. He's very committed to the ramp package there. He's got 4 ramp cards. That's Eye of the Fate, right? So that's not Quills. We don't have Quill or anything like that, but
no Quill. Got Eye of the Fates for
I see
Hades.
12. Yeah. I see 4 Mickey, 4 Tala, 4 1 jump, yeah.
Yeah. And Bell is technically one also. So
16 essentially.
Nothing
if we want to talk about budget decks, this is not a budget deck. This is not the budget deck you should be striving for.
This is very,
This
very
is
far from budget.
arguably this is probably more expensive than Amethyst Ruby. Just looking at it.
I think it is because I mean the Hades are like $30 a pop. The Bells are 45, $50 a pop. Let It Go is almost a $10 card now.
Yeah, understandably, it's a good card.
So yeah, I mean Ursula's gonna be scratching $20 soon. Like this is definitely an expensive deck. There's no doubt about that.
It's a cool deck though.
So yeah,
Big fan of it.
Again, I think it's cool. Shout out to you guys with you said you had 38 players a couple weeks ago. You had about 30 players this week. You have a Win-A-Box tournament coming up. Is that at the store?
Yep, that's this week.
It is.
So yeah, week. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's great that you guys are, finding the community again. And just for reference, like how far apart are you two that like you have to drive to the store on your Wednesday night?
10 minutes.
Okay.
If that.
35 for me.
Okay. So 35
if there's no traffic. If there's no traffic.
Okay.
So sometimes between 35 to 50, depending on the traffic. But it's still closer than when I played Transformers, because this place also played Transformers, and I went here not as often because it was quite a bit farther. It was like an hour 15 one way to get there. And it was like you play at 7 p.m. and it's like that's a late night,
Yeah.
But it's a lot better.
That's like getting home at midnight.
Yeah, it was rough.
That's what he's going to be probably doing on Wednesday when he plays for the box late night.
Yeah, you bet I will be. I already told my wife, like, hey, listen, I'm gonna be there. I'm sorry. All right, I gotta try to win the box.
So we have Quentin Young, Central Illinois area, just for fun games, 10 to 18 people, and then each week and Week in Zeke's, I think that's how that goes, as about 15 to 25. Zeke's is doing 18-person casual tournaments next week, actually, so that's cool. Again, I think it's really cool to see these type of numbers this early is great, especially on weeknights. I mean, weeknights is not something everyone can do, so it's pretty difficult to commit to that. Again, like Saturday morning, Sunday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon, like they're definitely more accessible, I think, for more people. Like for me, like the closest store that's like in Philadelphia is doing like Tuesday nights, and I have not been able to make a single Tuesday night league night because it's like, yeah, it's Tuesday night. I can't make it there. I'm working until whatever time, or just it's tough. Like weeknights are tough, but we'll see how it goes. I think it'll be interesting moving forward. But again, I think it's really great that you guys are found the store that you can already enjoy the game. Is there any other stores in the Minnesota area that you're also kind of like picking up on it?
There's a lot of stores. I think Christian's been doing more traveling.
I have been. Yeah, I've been experiencing some other stores when I get the chance to, because sometimes I can't always make it to TTT, but I try to make it at least once a week, and so the Facebook page has a big list, like it's the front cover of the Facebook page of all the stores in the state that have league nights or certain events or whatever. And like the list is very big. It is roughly
it's a whole Excel spreadsheet.
Is it 29 different stores in the state that you can go to?
That's impressive.
It's a lot of stores, and they have the list of like what's the cost, what's the price structure, time, city. It's very nice.
Whoever organizes your Facebook is way better than I am.
I'm gonna send you I'm gonna send it to you on Discord.
I will probably steal it and use it for my own Philadelphia area. So
it's honestly the best because you just have this spreadsheet like, oh man, it's a Thursday night. It's 4. I kind of want to go play some Lorcana. What's around me? And you go to the spreadsheet. It's like, wow. And it's all color coded by days as well. It's pretty nice. But it's awesome. And they do a great job organizing it. So we have let's see. Is there any other stores? Level Up Games in Minneapolis is also a great store. As well. They just had a Win-A-Box, I think, a few days ago, actually. That I didn't even know about, which is crazy. There's a lot of events getting marketed on the Facebook page, so I tend to miss them all the time. But lot going on in Minnesota for Lorcana. It's pretty exciting over here.
Nice. That's good to hear. So the last store we're going to be shouting out today is actually from our friends over at Live Laugh Lorcana. They have this store called Four Horsemen Comics and Gaming. It's in Robinson Township, PA, which I think is like in the Pittsburgh area. but they on their podcast this week they actually interviewed their LGS TO, which I thought was a really cool conversation. Honestly, if you haven't checked them out, I recommend checking them out. They're actually a really fun conversation. And in general, this particular episode discussed like his visual and his views of the his plan for league nights, which I thought was really cool. But the astounding number again was they had 40 players. Like they had 40 people showing up on Tuesday nights. Is that what it was? I think it was Tuesday nights. And they're just jamming games of Lorcana with 40 people on Tuesday night. Like that's crazy. Like it's really exciting to see how unbelievable this game is already getting at such a low level. And I think it's great because we've had these 1K tournaments all throughout the nation already spread out. We've had several in Florida. We've had Atlanta. We've had Tennessee, technically Denver. For me, we have one in New Jersey tomorrow. We have stuff in Massachusetts. Like I've been hearing, in our Discord, we posted nation, all over the stuff, like anywhere that you can find stuff in the nation. And just to kind of see how crazy it's already been. It's really fun. It's really exciting. There's always like, oh, Ravensburger's not having official organized play. Who cares? Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. Like, you could go any weekend and drive and play Lorcana pretty much if you really wanted to. So, I just wanted to give the shout out to these particular numbers that I've been hearing from these incredible local game stores that are definitely like committed to the game. And like, we didn't cover it just a little bit real quick. Like your store ran out of product, right? But they're working on the system. So tell me a little bit about the system they're working on, because it might be something that other stores can utilize, in all honesty, for store owners that might watch the video.
Yeah, I can probably speak on this one. So basically the way it is they have a whole when you buy product at the store, you have the option to make like an account, and that gets you like discount codes, things like that. They have mystery boxes of like either sealed product or high-end cards organized by game that you can spend the points on, like kind of a rewards thing as like a thank you for supporting them. But in this account, they take your name down, or even I think for Lorcana, it's not even the account base, it's just they take your name down, and your prize packs will be like jotted down. And once they receive all the product, and I quote, you will just be given a bunch of packs. Like you'll just be given like a whole handful of packs if you got them all at once.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. I mean, especially if we get to the point where, if we don't actually see that October product until, I don't know, the second or third week of October, you might be able to accrue 24 packs and they're just like, hey, here's a booster box, right? Like,
yeah,
that'll feel great, right? Like if you just hand that'll feel great. I'd be ecstatic about that.
Absolutely.
Well, especially when it gets to the point too where like you sometimes forget that you have all that product accrued and you're just like, here you go, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be great.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like it's just one of those where it's like stores that aren't utilizing the game itself. It's really funny. Like I'm gonna date Christian here again, but like it almost feels like a League of Their Own. It's like or no, not League of Their Own. The baseball. Oh my god! Now I messed up. I messed up the whole quote here. But it's like if you build it, they will come. Field of Dreams. Woo! Not League of Their Own. Field of Dreams. Saved by Kylie. But seriously, the Lorcana is just it's flourishing. And maybe it is the Disney magic. I don't know, but it's just like people want to play the game. When you have this many people angry about not being able to find product, but still somehow playing the game in numbers of 30 and 40 people local game night for league play. I mean, it's crazy. It's really, really exciting, I think.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's a good time. It's a good time to be a card player right now, let me tell you.
It really is.
All right. So with that, we are going to segue into part 3 of this particular podcast. And guys, we're going to talk some fun stuff, right? We're going to talk about Rise of the Floodborn.
Dan, what is this? What is this, Dan?
What?
Right. So
what's Floodborn?
We had 6 new cards this week. Well, let's just run through them because I think it'll be the easiest way to do this. So we have I'm Stuck, which is a 1-cost inkable amethyst action that says choose exotic character can't ready at the start of their next turn. So this is just like a 1-cost action Elsa for 1 card, right?
I kind of like this one.
You know, I liked it when I first read it, but then I have my inner Yu-Gi-Oh player where I don't actually read all of the card text before I read a card.
Okay.
Then I read it has to be an exerted character, and I got
Mhm.
a little less excited about the card. Like
Yeah.
if I could tap down a card and then do that, I'm like, yeah, this card's sick.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah.
do that, unfortunately.
Yeah. To all my World of Warcraft friends, if this was just Hammer of Justice that didn't draw a card, it might be that much better. If Anna read tap a character, it can't be ready, it would be a better card.
Yeah.
As a 1-cost action that only taps and exert it, I think it's interesting enough because it can buy you some time and it can definitely alter lore numbers. But
It's
yeah,
thinkable, right? Like,
it
I
is
mean, like,
thinkable. I just
well, here's a question. If you had if you were playing like a Emerald Amethyst deck that played Befuddle, would you
Yep.
rather play this or Befuddle? Right?
Yeah, I don't
Like
know.
they're kind of similar.
I think it's a really tough choice actually. I think that they're both both situationally close, so it might just be a meta thing. In all honesty, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I'm not overly
Yeah.
excited about this card, other than the fact that the art is incredible. But
God, I
that's
love
just
this
like
art, dude.
every
Well,
card. So pardon.
This is my favorite Winnie the Pooh episode growing up, dude. I saw this card and I had a good time. I
I
had a real
think
good time.
I think this card plus another one we might see later actually lead to new archetypes that we haven't gotten yet, and that is the tempo decks. We haven't really gotten a tempo deck in this game yet. The songs deck is the closest thing we got so far,
Mhm.
but I think this gives you another color choice of tempo decks you can lean into, and that's what gets me excited about it, not necessarily its overall power,
Mhm.
but I think there is a home, and we will see it like what Christian was saying, the Amethyst Emerald kind of shell. Like it makes cards like Iago actually interesting because you make their guy swing into you, and then you freeze it on the next turn and punch it with your big guy, or punch it with something that wants to be like killed in combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
My problem is I don't know that Lorcana works well in that realm currently. So like I think you're gonna need a lot of synergy to like make it honestly worth the resource. This
yeah.
is something that if it was on an item, extremely playable, but it's not. It's like
Yeah,
it's a one-time effect that you like have to have situational things happen and things that have to like
Yeah.
be in place for you to even utilize it. And like I'm on the other side. I'm like, all right, cool. My opponent's only gonna get to Lilo me once. Like that's where I'm at. Like I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah. That's
I'll
what
just
I kept thinking of too. Yeah.
I'll just exert their Lilo on 2 after they get 2 lore, and then I'll just deal with it on a later turn. But I'm not even saying that that's great. I just think that's for me that's like best case scenario in most situations, and everything past that is just like so hyper situational that I don't even know that it's good enough. I don't know. However,
It's probably
Flynn
good
Rider,
limited. It's probably good
I'm the
limited.
opposite. I think Flynn Rider, if Flynn Rider was in chapter 1, I think he would be in every Emerald deck.
He will be in every Emerald deck, frankly, when the set comes out. Let's be real. Yeah, no,
one
this card's good.
1/3s are better than 2/2s for 1 cost.
For aggro decks at least.
Yeah.
Fragger decks. Right.
For
Fragger
aggro
decks. So,
decks.
like this like instantly replaces Duke. Like, see you later. Sorry, Wesselton. You're gonna have to go. But I think it's really funny to think about cards like this because it's ironically if I'm an Amethyst Emerald player, or if I'm an Emerald Amber player, I'm actually super excited to see a 1-cost 1/3.
Yeah, my boy Devin, who's on the Emerald train, he saw this card. He's like, "That's my card. That's my
Yeah,
card right there."
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
I get it. Even like, yeah, any Emerald shell is just gonna want this card. Like,
yeah.
if you're playing Emerald Ruby, I expect you to have 4 Minnie Mouses and 4 Flynn Riders, right?
Right.
Because like your
Right.
curve is
And
just
same thing with
better.
Olaf. Like if you're playing the Amethyst version,
Yeah,
you're playing Olaf and Flynn Rider, and you're just like, sweet.
yeah,
I'm so
that's
stoked.
good stuff.
I'm so
That's
excited
good.
about it.
And
So I like it.
maybe there might be a hint to a potential Floodborn Flynn Rider in the art.
That's a good
Yeah,
Because you
point.
can
I
see the
I think
arts
it's really
of
cool.
the 2-cost one. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's really cool. I love this like the homage. And all honesty, I think this comes up a bunch. And I think what's crazy, I can't confirm it on this card for some reason. It got cut off. I don't know why. But like I'm curious if it is a different artist on the card that still attributes to the original art. because it happens really fluently throughout Lorcana all over the place, where even though it's different artists for different cards of even the same character, they still complement each other so very well. And I don't know if that's like just Disney like really storyboarding it well or something like that, but all in all, I think it's really cool that you find these little Easter eggs all the time in these cards. It's actually really, really impressive.
It is very much so.
So let's talk about this guy, because
Here he is.
I'm so excited about Cogsworth. So our first Cogsworth is a 2-cost 2/3 with Storyborn Ally, and he has 1 lore with the ability of, wait a minute, your characters with Reckless exert this, gain 1 lore.
Yep.
I mean, this card's great.
Yeah.
I just,
Good card.
even if like you really look at the landscape for Sapphire 2 costs in general, this card's great. Like a 2-cost 2/3 that like just has a lore and he's inkable. Like that's just good.
I don't think that's
Yeah.
I don't think that's in Sapphire yet. I don't think that's there.
It's just good, right? Like it's great.
Good.
The unique addition to the Reckless, I think, it's very curious.
Yeah.
Because I love the concept of it. I love that we can now like utilize this card to make Reckless do other things and like basically set ourselves up to finally have control over what our Reckless characters are going to do, which I think is great. But I'm also not like, I don't know, super gung-ho about the excitement about it. It's like, oh yeah, like now I can just exert my Gaston for a lore. It's like, well, that's cool and all, but I'm also cool just Gaston trading with everything in the game. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it'll be curious to see how many more Reckless cards we get.
Yeah, I think it's important mostly just for like over time, right? Like in by set 5, how many more Reckless cards do we have that like this now becomes incredibly relevant, right? Like or like there's gonna be times where people are gonna have a Gaston and a Cogsworth on the field, and they're like not ready for the Gaston to win the game out of nowhere, right? Like they're just gonna forget, right? Not saying that shouldn't be your strategy. That your opponent doesn't read your cards. You're not playing a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. But it does happen sometimes,
I don't know, man. The other Cogsworth has a paragraph. I ain't reading that.
Okay. Listen, I played enough Yu-Gi-Oh to at least read a little bit of that.
Was fair.
A little bit of that.
So speaking of the grandfather clock, he has a 5-cost inkable 2/5 with shift 3 because he is a Floodborn. He also has Ward. He also has the ability of Unwind, which is your other characters gain resist +1, and he's got 2 lore. So this card is just
hell.
Like this card's just unbelievable, right? I mean, like I can't find anything bad about this card.
Set. We found the giant Tinkerbell to set already.
Right,
that's all.
which is crazy.
This card's insane.
Because we're like, I don't know, 20 cards in, maybe something like 19 cards in or something like that. We already have a card with this much text that does an insane amount of things, and it legitimately is like an anthem for resist, which is unbelievable. Like this card's nuts.
Any anthem is good. This is insane. Like I don't know, man. See the kind of talking what we talked about earlier about things we might expect to see in the set. I'm very much expecting a card that's going to like in one color that's going to say remove all resist from your opponents, right? I expect that to happen, but
it's either that or we're going to get a reverse keyword of like unpreventable damage of some sort, right?
Yeah,
overwhelm or something like that. Like
whatever it is, yeah.
The fact that you can get this guy on turn 3 is insane. Like
you're gonna win every game this guy comes out on turn 3.
I don't think you win every game, but like you're gonna feel it, right? Like you don't even have to necessarily quest with this guy. You can just keep him upright and like say, okay, do you have me prepared? Can you get rid of this guy? Yeah, you don't have to quest with this guy. He just makes the rest of your deck.
I'm with you. Like if I just shift this dude in on 3, I'm never luring with this dude until I win the game.
No, absolutely not.
It's just like
unless you have a second one out, then you're like, okay, I guess I'll quest with the second one, right?
Sure.
Good luck with my resist 2 on everything.
By the way the rules of Disney Lorcana work, anything that has +1 does stack. So the fact that this has resist +1, if we have 2 of these, literally all your other characters, which at that point would be the other Codsworks, your other Cogsworks would all have +1, and every other character would have +2 resist.
I wonder if this.
No, No, you go make it. Go
No, I was
for
just
it.
gonna say, I wonder if this sees play with Aurora or if it just outright replaces Aurora, because getting both of those on the field at
I
the
was gonna
same
say.
time gets to do really stupid things, and then your fives and Sapphire are kind of flooded at this point, though. Because, like, I also think, like, in that deck, you'd want to be playing the Jasmine to just make your resist and healing. We know that damage reduction effects and healing is a great combination, and
Yeah.
I
you
don't
get that.
think
I mean, let's.
I don't know if you need it though, right? Like the idea, like if you can imagine, like if you run 8 2 drops and it's 4 cogs worth for 2 cost Aurora, and then your 8 5 drops are 5 cogs worth or 4 cogs worth for warding Dreaming Guardian Aurora, and then the rest of your deck is just like impactful cards. Dude, that's a lot of value. That's a
Mhm.
lot of value, you know? Like in kind of talk about like an up and coming deck from this set, Sapphire Emerald. Like this card immediately goes in that deck.
Oh
I
yeah.
think that probably replaces the Dreaming Guardian Aurora in terms of like, you can't really rely on getting both on the field that often per se. I guess you
Right.
can actually, maybe not the
Mm.
shiftable version.
Even I
But
mean, a
this
lot of the
this
versions
makes
aren't
your
even
skill
playing
matchup
four,
that much
so
better.
it's still pretty limited.
True. It's still limited, but, like, still just, like, the fact that Emerald already always has this natural enemy to steal because they can just pop all your dudes, but all of a sudden you get this guy on, it's like, "Okay, I'm gonna grab your swords and I kill nothing." The grab your swords didn't do anything against your 3
I mean,
lore, 2 lore
uh,
punks.
it literally immediately interrupts and says, "I don't care about Tinkerbell." Like this
Yeah,
card, just like literally at face value, is like, I get into play before your Tinkerbell, and now your Tinkerbell does 1 damage to this card, and then it has ward, so you can't do anything with it anyway. Like,
So, now here's the question for you, Dan. Do you
mhm,
think so you've been paying attention to the market.
mhm.
Tinkerbell has definitely gone down in price. Do you think it's because in response to this card being
No,
revealed?
no,
No?
no,
because
You
people
don't think
still
so?
need to be
Do you
buying
think
that card for right now anyway.
True. Do you think it'll still be relevant with this card floating around in set 2?
yes,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Attaboy. That's
Absolutely.
the
It's not
answer
even close.
that's
It's
the answer
literally
I
the
was
best card in the
expecting.
game. One card
I was gonna
answer doesn't change the best card in the game. It's like, okay, if you don't play
uh,
Sapphire, I'm still the best card in the game all the time. So yeah, no,
I was gonna chastise you if you said yes. So
yeah, no,
we can cut the conversation.
yeah, no chance. So the last 2 cards here are the Prince, which is Never Gives Up, which I love that that little sub name there. He's a 3 cost 1/3 with
True.
two lore, right? This guy has 2 lore.
my
He has
The
Hercules.
same with
Bodyguard
hard.
and Resist +1. This guy instantly, we set it off like off screen here, but like this guy instantly replaces Hercules. It actually makes Hercules look like the worst card ever. Like,
To talk about like I don't like you throwing the word power creep, right? Like you're not gonna hear me say power creep too often.
right.
But this does power creep Hercules. Like does power creep the common, right? Like
Yeah.
it's
The
what are you gonna
uncommon
do?
power creep the common.
The uncommon power creep the common.
I
Yeah,
mean,
this card is nuts, dude. It's
I
so
can't believe it
good.
has 2 lore. Why does it have 2 lore? Like,
That's
Well,
unnecessary at that point.
so
I guess
good.
it's because he's not gonna kill anything when people run into it, right? He's only 1 attack. I guess that's like the trade-off, but like I
I
don't
No, no,
mean,
know.
no, no, no.
I guess it doesn't matter.
You play him in the Sapphire Steel
Yeah,
deck, and then you
he
have
just has
yeah.
Phil.
resist 3.
You have resist 3, and then you have Phil supporting him, giving him +3 attack to literally kill all the things while protecting your Phil.
Yeah, I think that's
No,
honestly.
you should never be attacking with this guy. You're only questing with him, right?
I mean, no, I mean, here's the thing, right? And this is I don't think enough people have talked about this yet. I haven't heard enough people speak about this. The fact that resist is damage dealt to this character is reduced by 1, and it's not while defending, or it's not while
Yeah,
attacking. It's literally
it's
just
all damage.
all the time. I mean, that is unbelievable. So I love the situation that we was just presented by Smurf here is like, I can just make this guy a fourth, like a literal 4/3 with resist 1. If I have the cogs with
Fair
resist 2,
point.
whatever it is, like
I guess that's a
you're
fair
just
point.
like,
Yeah.
this dude just runs in, kills everything all the way up the curve until like turn 4 for most cases, and he just like will never die. Like
I
the
didn't even
whole
put 2 and 2 together about the whole attacking thing. I didn't even realize that.
it's
Yeah, you're
that
100% correct.
that keyword
Oh my god, yeah, the Phil play.
is
Yo, Phil
so
looking
good.
great.
So good. This guy is incredible because I mean, just even if we look at the landscape of the game right now, like Rafiki comes in, doesn't kill this guy. It
Doesn't
just
kill him.
it doesn't
Doesn't
kill this
kill him.
guy. I mean, like
You need your
it
Zeus.
it's
Need
mind
Zeus.
Well, Zeus does, right? Zeus will get him. Zeus is 4.
Yeah.
So, but that's a whole, it's a whole other number. I mean, I don't know. It's crazy that resist is the way it is. When I first read it, I just assumed it was while defending. And then once I realized that it was not while defending, I'm like, wow, this keyword's bonkers.
Yeah.
Did you imagine if Sturdy in Transformers was while attacking too? It wouldn't matter, actually. It wouldn't matter. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
I haven't, guys. I've never played Transformers TCG. I'm sorry. I don't even know what that game is. What's a
Well, first of
Transformer?
all,
Like the electrical outlet stuff?
people might not
Shoot.
even know what Sturdy does, so it's okay.
True. That's okay.
So we have
Micah knows. He's judging me. I can feel it.
true. We have Bounce, which is a 2-cost uninkable action for Emerald, and is return chosen character of yours to your hand to return chosen character to the player's hand. The first ruling that comes up is that yes, you have to have a character to bounce. But your opponent does not have to have one.
Yep.
So you can effectively bounce 2 of your own cards back to your hand, actually, which I think is interesting.
The reason why is how it's worded, because it's the cost. It's similar to other cards like this where it doesn't technically target 2 things. It just you target your own thing, and that's the only actual
But it's just weird. It's interesting because there's gonna be a lot of complications around the ruling because people are gonna be like, "Oh, you can do that because I don't have something." It's like that's just not true. Like the only thing that matters is the first sentence, and then everything else is just like bonus after that. But regardless, I do think it's interesting that the wording on this card is so very specific that it is that way. It's not like return an opponent's card back and then return yours. It specifically says that you have to return your own card first. And then you can choose any character. But what's interesting is that when you return chosen character of yours to your hand to return another chosen character to their player's hand, is that if your opponent does not have another thing, you have to bounce another thing of your own. So you can effectively end up bouncing 2 of your own cards with this particular card, which I think is really interesting. We tweeted about this, that it was like, there's like 35 cards that currently have a one when they come into play effect. I can only assume that number is going to grow moving forward. But all in all, just as this card being a potential like tempo trade, like let's just say I bounce my Megara, right? Like if that's my play, I'm like, all right, I play on my turn 4 play is play Megara, buff something, use my thing to buff, remove something, and then play bounce to put my Megara back, and then bounce like their 3 cost back. Like that's a pretty sick tempo swing turn, right?
Yeah.
So do you think this card, like, there's a lot of uninkables in Emerald. I guess, do you think that this card at face value is going to see play?
It's a build around.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
So it's not in every deck. It's not gonna be in every Emerald deck card.
I think the decks that run Mother's Knows Best as reliable removal probably won't be running this card. But I think there's, like you said, there's so much different things to this card, right? Like there's so much different like this is like, this is a Smurf card. As we put it, it's
Totally
a combo
Smurf tier.
player oriented card. It's super Smurf tier, which is not a bad tier. It's just a Smurf tier, right?
I was already thinking of it with 8-cost Genie, like his quest.
There he is. There it is.
Quest, play it for free, and then you can use your ink to play what you just bounced.
Dan, can you please make an emote for your live streams where there's a big stamp that comes down and it says Smurf tier right on it whenever Micah says anything like that? Because that's immediately what we need. Just that's a Smurf tier idea, and it's sick, right? Like not dogging on it. It's just like only Smurf would come up with a sick play like that.
To me, this is the first card printed, and the fact that it's in Emerald, that no, I have not truly sat down to think it through, but it's like there might, for all my old school Magic the Gathering fans, there might be some serious chittering rats concept going on with this particular card, and like Do It Again and Mickey Mouse and things like that, and like Lady Tremaine. Like there might be some like legitimate way to just bounce your opponent out of the turn for all of time, basically.
You could run Emerald Amber too and rebuy draws for your Stitch.
Sure. Yeah.
Kind of good.
Yeah. I think I think this is gonna be one of the more complicated cards in the set, and I do think that it could very well create its own, its own archetype, which I think is very, very interesting.
It's something that Emerald kind of needed, right? Like I like the Emerald color, but like in set one, you kind of look at every Emerald deck, and they all kind of do the same thing, right? Like they're all essentially high questing aggro-ish decks. Maybe a mid-range deck slips in here and there, but for the most part, they all kind of play the same. I think this card really it gives the idea of like Emerald can do something beyond just be aggro, and
Sure.
it kind of plays to like you said, like the weird like Genie Unleashed, Artful Rogue, Mickey, Lady Tremaine, like this weird combo-y side of Emerald that it seems like Ravensburger kind of wants to lean in towards, right? And I
Right.
don't remember if yeah, like Scott spoiled like the Merlin card from the first set of promos.
Right.
But like, I mean, this is like, this is the card that works with Merlin. Like that's a thing there. Whether it's good or not, like, but that's something that gives players a chance to play around with, right? And it gives, like we were talking about earlier, like the idea of like two different Emerald Amethyst decks. You have like your mid-range, tempo-y kind of, faster deck that we kind of see now. But maybe there's legs for this Merlin bounce combo control type of deck, right? Like I don't know, right? We're barely 18 cards in and we don't really know, right? But it's something to at least like keep an eye out for those that want to do that, right?
That's fair. So as we're starting to land the plane here for this particular section, is there any other cards that were released in the previous weeks that you guys would like to discuss? I haven't had a chance to talk about any of the spoilers, so if there's something on this list that you guys would like to have a conversation about, I'm all for it.
Ooh, there's a I mean, there was a lot
Bell.
of good cards last time. There's Bell. Bell's
We'll
kind
bring
of a
up
good
Bell.
card.
All right,
This
so
this card.
this was
All
like
right.
this was the
There's a lot
first
of opinions here.
for me. This was the first card I saw, and like
Yeah.
my immediate response was, "What?" Like,
Yeah, right?
If you play this after the big Cogsworth, it is actually one of the most toxic things to remove
That's pretty good.
because you can't just smash it.
it's pretty
Can't just
good.
smash it.
It's pretty good. It's
It's
pretty good.
see,
This
but
card is
this
just good,
kind of,
right?
so
Here,
this tells me at least, right? Like, is there like what kind of draw cards are they going to put into the game though? Right?
so it's funny. I'm actually while I think it's interesting that you state that. Here's what I'm curious about. So we get this new keyword resist. We get a card, like Bell, that's like very demanding of card advantage and things like that. Like,
Yeah.
Dragon's Fire is the only card in the game that flat out removes a single card, like that just says get rid of a card, right?
Mm-hmm.
Damage, we have Fire the Cannons, we have Smash, grab your swords, and then like Tinkerbells and things like that.
Let it go, I guess.
Okay, so let it go.
Let it
That's
go.
a good example.
That's a good one.
All those cards cost an extremely high amount, right? So what are the odds that we actually get a better card than Dragon's Fires as hard removal in set 2? Do you think it's like necessary almost?
Hey man, we got a better Herc. We got a better Herc.
I think we'll get, if we do, it'll have restrictions attached to it.
Right. So like,
Yeah,
let's just
it
say
has
it's
to, right?
like a 3-cost uninkable that says banish a character that has 3 or less, right? Like something like that. I don't know. It could be 3 or less willpower. It could be 3 or less strength.
Or like dented
be
armor,
possible.
banish a character that has resist.
Sure.
Or remove a character with a cost of 5 or higher, or 5 or lower.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways you could go about that.
I don't think I would. I wouldn't expect this in like chapter 2, but it's something that I would assume later on. Like, do you think that we'll get burn spells that like specifically do more damage to cards with resist? Like, I don't think you'll get that right away, but it's definitely something that if resist was like clearly getting out of hand later in testing, like you would just throw it into the next set.
I think you just don't keyword it. You just say this card's damage can't be reduced.
Yeah, you could do that too. You could do that too. I don't know. I just think I look at resist and already, and it already is alarming to me. Because we're already in this kind of a world where like mid-range and control decks are just like crushing so many different landscapes of the game. And then you like introduce a card, like you introduce a keyword like resist, and you're just like, you're already like the game already feels slow to a lot of players. So like now you're literally like here's a thing that automatically slows the game down at every given turn. I just feel like you're going to have more removal. You're going to have to find more ways to just like innately answer these things. I don't know. I guess that's just me, but it's really hard because I think if you ask me the same question, like even a month ago, I'd be like, they're never going to make a better card than Dragon's Fire, at least not this soon. But with like some of the first cards of just seeing the keyword resist, I'm like, I think they have to. Like they have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some players might almost be a little alarmed by like the power of cards they're revealing already within just 19 cards of a second set. Like, like I'm not like I don't ever try to spread panic or like, the game's gonna go crazy Yu-Gi-Oh levels. I don't think that at all. But I think,
No.
but I'd be a fool to at least not deny like these are incredibly powerful cards, like these would be like a very expensive cards if they were in set one currently. They'd be like the frameworks of decks, right?
Yeah,
Like
but that's the good thing, right? It means,
what is a good thing?
I mean,
Means
obviously
each set is worth it,
we
right?
haven't seen a particularly overpowerful Amethyst card yet, which is probably a good thing because
Probably
then
good.
people will really start losing their mind.
Not
But
bad.
I guess here's the thing, right? For me, in set one, like if I just asked you, like, lightning round, what's like the most powerful keyword? What would you say?
Ward.
Most powerful keyword.
What was
Lord,
it?
I don't think.
Ward.
I heard ward. What was
Oh
Christian?
Lord. Most powerful keyword. Singer.
Okay, so I think it's shift.
Oh yeah, shift is keyword. Yeah, I would say shift.
So
I'm gonna change
the
that.
fact that the set is called Rise of the Floodborn kind of tells you all you need to know because shift is incredible.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
really dominating to the metagame. It's on some of the best cards in the game currently. So all of a sudden, when we start thinking about how games are going to play out, and we realize that there might be like, I don't know, 30 Floodborns instead of 12, I believe we have in set one. Maybe that's low, but I think it's 12. I think it's 2 per ink. It might be 3 per ink. I can't remember correctly right now. But it's probably going to be like either double or triple in size the amount of shift characters you're going to have in the game. And right there, it's a power creep, in all honesty. And it's not even like it's it's not like it's this remarkable power creep. It's just that understanding the keywords in the game were so underrepresented in a 204 card set that the moment you get more of the best keywords, and for what it's worth, I'm with you guys. I think ward's a great keyword. I think singer is a phenomenal keyword because if all it takes is more songs. Singer is always as good as whatever the next song that comes out. It's an evergreen ability.
Yep.
Shift is the same way.
Yeah.
Shift, like these
Shift
big
the exact same
characters
way.
will always be good if there's more smaller versions of themselves created. So it's just a natural development to the game. And I think that that's the most interesting thing for me so far in this is that seeing we already have what one. If I go back to the screen so everyone can see what I'm looking at, I messed up.
I think shift is.
So we have Cogsworth, which is shift. We have Belle, which is shift. We have Cinderella, which is shift. We have the Queen, Gaston. I mean, like that's already like 5 cards with the keyword.
That's 5 cards. That's almost half set one right there. I think it's interesting so far too. Like they haven't, and obviously, again, only 20 cards in, if any, but they haven't done any repeat characters that can shift, right? And that might be the purpose of the set too. Like we don't see any like any more shiftable Aladdins or anything like that yet.
Well,
We might.
so that'll be curious, right? And we'll pick back up on that sec. I want to hit up chat real quick because I think this is actually a very interesting take. So I think resist actually makes the game faster by letting bodies remain on the board to quest more.
I was gonna say this earlier. Yeah, this might be a take too. I don't know.
I think I guess I hadn't really considered it. More bodies does create more chaos, so it's possible. I don't know. I don't hate the take, to be honest. I think it's a pretty good take. Definitely not something I consider.
I mean, if you think of like the Ruby Amethyst mirrors, where like it's all about like getting rid of your guys before they can lore, but like they're like the seal mirrors, right? Like, but if you can't really do that anymore, then you kind of have to focus on just ramping or like just luring a little faster, which is kind of the point of the game anyway.
I guess
right?
The question becomes: does resist just affect the challenging aspect of the game too much? Because like the challenging is like it's it's a pretty underutilized concept in the game. In all honesty, a lot of people just look at it as the race and they just go for it. But like challenging is it's key moments in games that when you make the right challenges, you kind of flip the game upside down. And with resist being a keyword and kind of just it's just like so like negative towards the whole challenging concept that maybe that does just lead to bigger races or faster races. That's a very interesting take. Shout out to Alejandro for sure. So my next question I was going to say is like, not only do you think that we won't see another Tinkerbell that shifts, but do you think that like we'll even see another Tinkerbell to shift onto? Do you think we'll see another Aladdin to shift onto? Like, because that's where I would be curious to go is like, how quickly will we get different characters to interact and even from like different inks to
I
interact?
hope so.
We already see that, right? Oh, what was that, Micah?
So what do we have in set? What's different now? What am I
It's
missing?
the Elsa. It's the Challenger Elsa. I'm not saying like this is like an impactful card, but
but we already have an Amethyst Elsa.
Oh, you mean like outside of other inks? Is that what you mean?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I guess this is like that is you are correct. That is another card to shift onto. I mean, she is what like a 6/4 when she attacks. Like that's not bad.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I guess I was more looking at it like if we were to get a Sapphire Elsa, right? Like that would be really good. So like these are all shiftable characters that are big shiftable. But like so, like if we got I don't know an Amber Aladdin or a Sapphire Aladdin, like things like that are like smaller characters, 3 or 4 cost, whatever to shift onto. Do you think we'll see any type of like that concepts to just I don't know, I guess breed more incompatibility?
I think that it would be good, and I was hoping we'd get to this. So I already know players who are trying to build decks around their favorite characters and giving them more options to use as shift fodder, for lack really of a better term, like giving them more shift fodder to get to their end game version of that character helps people play more of their favorite character. So it's a mana discount and tempo advantage mechanic for competitive players. But then you look at the more casual aspect and say someone really likes Captain Hook and they want to build a Captain Hook tribal deck. Well, now you would have more hooks to play with, so you're not just locked into Steel Ruby. If you wanted to play that deck, you could go into other archetypes or ink colors and get more options to fuel that. You're not just locked into this. You want to play Captain Hook? Here's your 2 colors.
Yeah, I like that. You can kind of see that in like just like the Aladdin like movie sector a little bit, right? Like the big shift Aladdin is like the premier like Aladdin card, right?
Right.
But there's technically 3 little Aladdins you can shift them onto in set 1.
Yeah,
right. And so
one of
you
them is
actually
just
have
really
a little
bad.
play them. One of them, but he lures for 2, Dan. He lures for 2.
That's not even what I'm talking. I was talking about the 2/2 with Ward.
Oh,
that's to do with Ward. Oh, but he can't be removed. It's okay.
Yeah,
See,
no,
they
he's
can't
bad.
stop your turn 5, dude. They can't stop it. All right.
Grab your sword is still a card. You're wrong.
Okay, well, you have a good point there.
Rafiki has other
But
things
already
for
gonna
your.
lose to steal anyway.
Yeah, that's fair. You're gonna give him resist with Cogsworth. He's gonna live. It's fine. But
Hey, there we
he
go.
can't shift anyway.
I can't shift him to him, Dan. You're missing the point, clearly. Forget about Cogsworth and let's talk about Aladdin, all right?
I hear you. That's fine. Is there anything in particular else that you guys want to touch on here?
Oh man, there's a lot of really cool cards. Micah, do you have any cards in particular?
I think we've covered a lot of the ones I'm excited for. I like that we're getting characters in different inks, and like the Floodborn seems to be like the shattered glass era of a lot of these characters.
Yeah,
Because you're getting the genius Gaston versus the Chad Gaston, like the
that
the
was
blue one.
that was a big concern of mine. Like going into Lorcana, like, am I just playing with like some cutesy cards like all the time? And then I see Steampunk Mickey. I'm like, this game rocks. What is this guy? Where was this in the movies when I was like, 2 years ago when I was a kid? Right? Let's be real. But
there absolutely is a trash Captain Hook and Ruby. You hit it now on the golf.
Attaboy Rashid. There is a trash Captain Hook. But the Peter Pan meta demands that Captain Hook.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think it's great. I think
Yeah.
we're very early on, which is funny because it's like what September 23rd. This next set comes out in like less than 2 months.
Comes out
So
alarmingly
if
quick.
they wanted to, they could spoil like 3 cards a day, and we like that'd be great. I guess they don't have to, but I thought it
I
was.
take it.
I will tell you this much: I was definitely not expecting for just like a random Tuesday to all of a sudden just get bombarded with 13 spoilers. So like,
It was a good Tuesday.
I was like, all
It was
right.
a good day.
I was like, this is interesting. So I don't know. I think it'll be cool to see more cards faster. It's really, I don't know. It's funny though, because it is like that weird line. Like we're still very much developing chapter 1, right? Like we're still very much exploring it. So it's like it's hard to kind of be excited about it in like this awkward way because I'm like, well, there's still so much left undone. I think for me, I know Christian will be there too, but I think Miami will be like the tipping point where it's like I think I'm so focused on like everything leading up to Miami that like once we get past Miami, I'm not nearly as concerned at that point. I think that'll likely be the biggest event of set 1. I mean, we're already at 135 players registered or more at this point. I haven't talked to Machado in a couple days. So I think like after that, I'll start really ramping up on getting excited for all the cards that we're finding out.
Well, part of it is people haven't
Exactly.
even gotten set 1. If
Yeah,
people haven't even gotten their
that's
hands
fair.
on set 1, how can they get excited about set
True.
2?
Yeah, I'm the opposite though. I've got plenty of hands on
Oh, we
set
know.
1, so
No,
that's not my concern. My concern is, but I've always been like this in every game that I play. Like I very much appreciate the presence of the meta game that we're in before I start caring about the meta game in 2 months. So I think for me it's gonna be Miami. I think after Miami I'll be like way more focused on what's going on in Rise of the Floodborn.
Plus, the third PVG event will have set 2 legal. So
Yeah, I mean, literally, like it'll come out and we'll already be playing with it before like we can even blink. So yeah, I hear you.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, all in all, gentlemen, huge shout out to you guys for joining me tonight. Really excited to have you guys back in the game as we started off at the top of it. You can find us all in our Discord where very, very active members. Ironically, Christian walked away for a year and he's still number 2 in ranking in the Discord because that's how active he was during Transformers.
I can't believe that, dude. I was shook when I saw that. Like, what did that say about me? Like, I don't know. How much time
we had a
away from
lot
work
of free
did I spend
time in
on
the
Discord?
pandemic. We had a lot of
I
free
had a
time
lot
in
of
the
free
pandemic.
time.
It's all
Bro,
that's all there is to it.
when I
VSAT
was in
died for
college,
Christian sins.
Yeah.
dude, I spent so much time in college. I remember bringing my webcam, tripod, and playmats and sitting in a remote spot in my library at college playing Transformers on webcam with punks on Discord. I'm like,
Yeah.
looking back, I'm like, what was I doing? Having a good time. That's the answer, boys.
Having a good
That's what I
time.
was doing. I was having a good time.
All right, guys. Thank you for everyone hanging out and chatting tonight. If you haven't yet, smash the like button. And if you're if you hung out the whole time and you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. And we will catch you in the next video. See you guys.
Adios, folks.